Transaction monitoring looks for behaviors that are different than what was originally anticipated. So when CoinFlow brings a merchant on, we establish the identity of a merchant. What are they using us to sell or withdraw funds for? So what we look for is, are there any deviations from that expected behavior? That could be anything like transaction sizes are very different than what we were expecting. Users doing more or less transactions than what we were anticipating their average user to do. The payment values being very similar across the board, maybe right below reporting thresholds. So there's two big buckets this falls into. One is fraud, so that's, someone's credit card's getting stolen and someone's trying to get as much as they can out of that before they get caught. And then the other is people trying to wash money through the financial system using e-commerce payment flows. There's also the third bucket, which CoinFlow also uses the same tools to manage, which is chargebacks. So we try to get ahead of Visa, MasterCard, Amex Discover alerts. If we see something trending in that direction, we will work with our merchants ahead of time to make sure that we get to things before they're a problem. Yeah, so this is kind of one of those Venn diagrams. There's some overlap, but mostly they're different. So fraud is someone's credentials being stolen. So, I steal your credit card and I try to buy stuff with it. AML is, I've acquired these funds by doing something illegal like selling drugs, and now I'm trying to mask these transactions as non-illegal things. They can sometimes fall into the same bucket, but more often than not, they're usually separate. Yeah, so two of the main things we look for, one, at least in terms of like simple monitoring, one is consistent transactions below reporting thresholds. So depending on the country you're in, transactions above certain sizes have to be reported to regulators. So in America, a common threshold, depending on the transaction type, is $10,000. So if you see a lot of like $9,999 transactions, that's like a clear red flag. Another thing would be what we call testing, where someone steals a credit card. They might try a couple $1 transactions to see if they go through. And then as soon as they know the card's working for them, they'll start, we've seen like 100K in a day before. So those are two common things. Those are very simple rules, but we have multiple tiers of rules. Some of them get way more complicated, but there's a lot of simple ones that still work really well, like those two. When an alert generates, that's not actually stopping anything from happening. So fraud's still going on, chargebacks are still accruing, or money is still being laundered. So, the alert's just the first step in the process. We actually need to go identify the root issue, address it, stop it from happening, and then see how we can stop it from happening again. So addressing it quickly is really important so that we stop the actual bad activities from happening. And then, we learn from every single alert, and we try to get faster and make those rules better. Yeah, so most merchants will look at their own dashboard and their general data. So they'll see, payment volume, withdraw volume, some customer-specific information. What we have here at CoinFlow is we have a lot of merchants, and there's a couple verticals that, we are really, really familiar with. So we're not only able to make general rules that our own merchants could frankly make, we also have data across several merchants in every industry, so we can make industry-specific rules based off of transaction patterns we've historically seen in that industry. And then, frankly, sometimes fraud happens, and we learn from that. We have thousands of data points on every transaction, every unique customer. We have a lot of customers that actually, transact with several of our merchants, so we're able to create identities for each cardholder across our entire merchant portfolio. And we're able to make a lot of sophisticated cross-merchant rules. And in some cases, we're even able to make merchant-specific rules based on what we've seen historically with other companies. So when we put these all together, we're able to provide a backstop for our merchants and use our transaction monitoring to catch a problem when it's $5,000, which is way before it becomes a $500,000 problem.